Welcome to SailGP 101. I'm Lisa Darmanin and I'm joined by the new Switzerland SailGP team driver Nathan Outteridge. We're actually here in the Adrenaline Lounge where a lot of people will be able to catch the racing, so they're still setting up, but I'm going to have a chat with you, Nath. How good does it feel to be back?
Yeah, it's good to be back. As I said, a few times it's been a little frustrating the last couple of years almost, not having like a permanent drive and, you know, obviously helping teams here and there. But when Seb asked me if I could just complete the season for him, it was a really cool opportunity because it's 5 back-to-back events where I can just sort of try and build things with the team and, you know, get the team in a better position for Seb, but also for me, it's a good chance to just be driving once again and testing my skills and trying to improve to become a better sailor.
Now, not many people get this opportunity, but obviously you've been able to jump around a few different teams, maybe help them out, maybe take some different knowledge from them. Has that been quite a cool sort of experience to sail with different people?
It has. It's been better than I kind of thought it would be. Like, you know, when you like lose a drive and you're sort of without a team, you do feel a little bit lost. And, you know, all I've ever done is drive boats and that's sort of what I know. But when you help other teams out, and I've had to help Seb on how he would drive the boat, for example, or like do the P6 position or go into the coaching booth, you end up just getting, oh, perfect, yes. Coffees.
It's a bit cold here, so we've ordered some warm.
Thank you. You just get to understand the team so much better than just your individual role. And so, like, you know, now that I'm back driving again, I have a much better appreciation for what the flight controller does on the boat because I've sat with them and tried to talk through the data, and I've, you know, understand how the coaching booth works now. So I've sat there in, you know, a couple of events and tried to use the data in the umpire app, and I now know what can come from there to the boat. So that's been quite interesting. And then obviously sailing with the Danish team and the Kiwi team recently, you see how different teams approach things. So obviously you sort of sign NDAs and you make sure you don't steal all the information, but kind of once you know something, it's hard to unknow it. And then you kind of just sort of build those pieces together. So, you know, Tom likes to refer to us as the older people of SailGP, but I feel like in the last 2 years, I've probably learnt more about the racing and how the boats work than I did probably in the first couple of seasons.
Well, SailGP has probably developed a lot since 2019, where you and Tom were sort of battling it out. It was you two at the top. You were the only one to steal a win from the Aussies in the first season. I guess looking back on that Japanese team and the success that you had with, you know, some really new sailors to that professional world, what was that experience like?
Yeah, it's amazing how the event has to, you know, evolved over the last few seasons. You know, season 1, no one had any experience at SailGP. We had no idea like what the race format was going to look like. It was pretty similar to what we did in the Bermuda Americas Cup. The boats were quite similar. So, you know, by sailing with Goobs and Parko, we kind of had like a tripod of understanding of how to sail the boats. But, you know, working with the Japanese squad and bringing, you know, some new talent in, you know, was really good. Like, you know, they came in, like Leo and the guys came in like really green, really keen, really enthusiastic. And then throughout the season, their knowledge and understanding grew a lot as we started to understand what were the winning plays. You know, it was fantastic having, you know, Tom and the Australians to really race against at the front, and we had some epic battles, and unfortunately for us, they got the better of us more often than not. But it was such a cool first season. You know, it was a little bit more open and free. We got way more training days. You know, we could sort of help choose configuration for the day. And the level below us, you know, was not as high. So it was almost often like a bit of a match race at the front of the fleet on a daily basis once you sort of broke free from the start. But man, it's changed a lot since then. Like since then, the depth has grown so much. All the teams are way more even across the fleet. Instead of 6 boats, you got 10 on the line. So we're kind of going to venues that have less space and putting more boats in there. So yeah, things have changed quite a bit, but great memories from early days.
Is it fun that it's more intense rate, like everyone's better, you got 10 boats, or is it a little bit more stressful? Like, what would you rather?
Well, you know, I had a drive and I ran a team in the first 2 seasons. So for me, that was kind of like, I guess, the glory days where you're kind of in control of your own destiny, working with the people that you put together. So for me, that was a lot of fun. But, you know, watching it evolve, you know, you can see how intense it is out there on the water, and what the broadcast doesn't really show and what the viewers in the stands don't see is, how difficult these boats are to sail consistently well, and then you've got all the racing on top of that. So, you know, SailGP is quite difficult because we just don't get any training time, and so you've got to maximise your time between events, so when you come, you're doing well. So those who have fun at events are those that are like prepared, those who have the experience, those who like know they can start, know they can manoeuvre well. And that's why you hear like Tom and Pete often talking so confidently at the press conferences that they know they're going to do well because they have that confidence. And every other team has conditions they can do well in, but there's still that uncertainty for pretty much all the other teams except those two. Like Nikolai's doing a great job now with the Danish team, but even he knows that like there's a long way to go to those top two teams. So, you know, as someone who's sort of seeing it all from the outside and now, you know, back on the start line, yeah, it's a lot of fun, but I know we're a long way behind those top teams.
You talked about a little bit of rust in Sydney, obviously getting on with the New Zealand team. You're used to sailing with those guys. They're obviously a really strong unit. You've got a lot of experience and a lot of talent coming into a team that's sort of learning. Is it frustrating? Is it exciting? Like, you've got to sort of step in as a team leader now. What's sort of the way that you're going to approach that?
Well, it's definitely going to be different. Like, you know, effectively the New Zealand team is one of the top teams. You know, they came off winning 2 events. You know, I spent a lot of time with Pete, Blair and the rest of the crew at Emirates Team New Zealand. So to slot into that team was probably about as easy it was ever going to get for me. You know, we obviously they had to bring me into their SailGP kind of dynamic, which is different from the America's Cup. But the way we worked was really good, and it was just a massive missed opportunity, you know, that final for us. We like did all the hard work in the pre-start to get ourselves in a strong spot, and then Blair and I just kind of misjudged the situation. We kind of thought we had to be really punchy at the start to win, and had we looked up, we would have seen how
free you were.
How free you were and how bad the Aussies and Danish really were. Like, they were way past windward ley line off the foil. So yeah, I've had a few weeks to think about how I would do that differently, and I did say on that day it was rust, and that's what happens if you're not driving every month at these events. You don't have the peripheral vision to understand your situation well. So like sailing the boat around the track and handling it was easy, but it was those tactical moments that come at you thick and fast at SailGP that if you don't do it all the time, you know, they can take you off guard. So yeah, this weekend will be very different for sure. You know, we've got a team that's, you know, been at the bottom of the fleet probably since the beginning, and a lot of inexperience, but lots of talent. You know, someone like Will Ryan is, you know, an exceptional sailor, and, you know, we got 11 minutes training out of yesterday in like top end conditions, and, you know, it was a really good 11 minutes, like probably far better than we're all expecting. Hopefully today, you know, we got the wind in the opposite direction, southwest, and we get another good training day in. But, you know, I think there's lots of skill in the team, and I think there's lots of understanding on what we need to do, but it's just the time and getting the team culture to come together so that there's belief that, you know, we can be competitive. So yeah, if we can get a couple of good results here, that'd be great. But ultimately it's about building things up over the next few events. It's like, you know, asking a good driver to go and drive a slow car and saying, oh, we're going to go and win races. It's a bit unachievable. But at least in this league, all the boats are the same. So it's about just getting the structure of the people and how we operate, and, you know, got a pretty good idea of how the top teams operate. So that's half the battle, is understanding what you got to do. Now it's about actually doing it. So
the last Racing on the Edge episode was focused around you, and obviously Tom as well. And we know that Stevie Morrison in the commentary loves to call you the Wind Whisperer. Did he coin that phrase, or where did that come from?
I think he decided somewhere during season 2 that we had a couple of good light air days where we picked a few shifts or a few gusts that the other teams didn't. And probably around the Copenhagen event where everyone's like H2 not moving and we're foiling around, and he's like, oh, Nathan must have whispered to the wind to get a little bit of piece of wind here. But you know, like, I think as it goes with like light air sailing, I just enjoy like the shifty nature, the light air nature. I think sailing in breeze is fun and everyone loves it, but sailing in light air is challenging, and you need to harness the wind and you need to like link things together. So, you know, growing up on Lake Macquarie, it's often quite shifty, and sometimes when it's light, it's quite tricky out there. So he asked me, you know, what do you think? And I said, you can call me whatever you want. So long as you don't say I'm the old bull or something like that, I'm okay with that.
I guess some people listening might be sailors, some might not, but I guess reading the wind, is it intuition? Is it going with your eyes? Like, when did you sort of realize that you just got it?
Yeah, well, we grew up on Lake Macquarie and had a view of the water from our house. And so like we were quite elevated and you could look over the water, and whether it was eating breakfast, lunch or dinner around the dining table, I'd always position my chair to look at the water. And so even now as you look out there, you can just see different colours and different shades. And so, you know, if you realise that sailing is driven by the wind, you need to understand what the wind's actually doing. You've got a few drops on your head. It's not raining.
It's not raining, I'm good. I'm a bit cold. We're in Antarctica down here in the Southern Island.
But I think that, you know, looking at the wind and understanding how it's moving across the water, you can visually see it, and then there's those senses that you get when you're sailing where you can actually feel it, because there's increases in strength, but there's also directional changes. So if you look long enough, you can see the wind moving around. And if you compare it to, say, someone who's a surfer, they'll probably sit on the beach for a while and just study the wave pattern and work out where it's breaking and what direction it's going. And once they understand the wave pattern, then they will paddle out and go and surf waves. And, you know, if you surf at that same beach enough, you can just look at the forecast, look at the surf model and go, I'm going to sit there and it's going to be left hands down here. That's what we do in sailing, and that's why the Adrenaline Lounge here is a perfect place to hang out. Rather than sitting in the tents over the back, you'd sit here and you'd look out and you'd just, today you can see, okay, it looks a little windier further out than it was on the shore, so probably going to be a stronger left-hand track. And if you do your homework, it gets much easier too.
So there's been a few conversations about, you know, the old guys or the experienced guys. I think with sailing, I mean, Russell was talking about that, you know, in a couple of years we're going to see 18-year-olds driving these boats. But in sailing, do you think experience pays? Because not only do you learn how to read the wind, obviously you can read it at 18, but do you learn experience in terms of those boat-on-boat situations in tight quarters? Do you think it will take a couple of years for anyone to learn how to race in this format?
I think so. I think what the advantage the old guys currently have is just the decades of experience that they've got probably before they even showed up at SailGP. You know, you look at some of the top sailors right now and those who have just retired, like Ben Ainsley, Jimmy Spittle, Pete, Tom, and probably myself, did a lot of stuff in the America's Cup when these falling cats began. We'd sail 5 days a week for like 5-6 years. And so you arrive at SailGP with all of that background knowledge. The new kids coming in now, Diego, you know, Taylor coming in now, Eric coming in, great sailors, but it's like coming from a go-kart and going straight into a Formula One car without going through, you know, the ranks to get there. Because in sailing, there just isn't the ranks. There's dinghy sailing, and then there's like SailGP and the America's Cup, and there's no like in between. And so, you know, imagine asking, you know, Max Verstappen to go from a go-kart and just jump in an F1 car and say, you got to win. He had to go through and do his time, and unfortunately what happens now is the guys show up and they do their time on the world stage in front of the press, in front of all the media, and they get rinsed for it. But if they have thick enough skin and they just chip away for a couple of seasons, they'll get enough experience that it takes that the talent will come through. And in the meantime, those that have got the experience just sort of sit there and smile knowing they've got this upper hand advantage, but it'll just keep getting smaller and smaller as the years go by.
Well, you're calling them kids, they're like early 30s or late 20s.
They're like 5 years younger than me, so yeah. But like, we're talking about, you know, like early 30-year-olds, but 18-year-olds, there's no question they have the talent to do it. They have the skill to do it. It's just, do they have the opportunity? And it's not, like we always talk about the driver, but the driver can only do so much. It's every other person on the boat that actually makes the boat for you. Like they're the stability of the platform, they're the performance of the boat, and the driver just holds the wheel and does some tactical decisions. And if everyone does their job in front of you, you look amazing. And if you switched all the drivers around but kept the crews the same, the teams would still win. Like the drivers can switch around and it probably won't change the results anywhere near as much as if you swapped all the flight controllers around, for example.
So back to the Japan days, obviously you lost the team commercially, got handed over to another team. Now you're back in the game. I guess, are you as driven as ever? Obviously you're not going to win necessarily the championship this time with 5 events to go, but are you still driven to come into SailGP and potentially win a championship in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you don't realize what you have until you lose it. And you know, the first 2 seasons with the Japanese team was fantastic, and we were trying to build the brand in Japan and try and find talent in Japan to come together. And unfortunately, the time frame just like ran out, and there was new teams coming in wanting to buy franchises. There wasn't enough of boats here, and so our boat just went to Canada. When Canada came in and said we wanted to buy it, Russell just said, okay, Japan goes to Canada because they have money and you don't. And he's like, go and find a team and some money and come back and have another go. And before I even like started doing anything, the Swiss said, can you come in as an advisor and start helping? And so where I'm at right now is I get 5 events, filling in for 7 till the games are over, but he'll be back for season 5. So for me, I guess this is a bit of an opportunity to try and help Seb get the team going for the future, but also a chance to say, hey, I'm not ready for retirement. I'm ready to take on a team for the future. And any team that's sort of being put together right now, if I can get some good results, it's sort of putting your hand up saying, I'm here, I'm ready, I want to run your team. And so, you know, it's not long until November when next season begins. So, you know, it's sort of deadlines coming up on that too. So it'd be good to get a good start on that. But yeah, for me, it's a great chance to go sailing, but it's a chance to try and find a ride for next season. It's so hard to find a ride if you're just sitting in the coaching booth. But if you're actually on the water, you have a chance to prove that you're worth something.
Oh, we're really excited to see what you can do with the team. Thanks for hanging out with me outside in the cold, but it was a good chat, and we'll let you get to your team meeting. And that's a wrap for SailGP 101. Make sure to subscribe wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, and we'll be back soon.